Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar with PandaDoc and ProsperWorks, 6 tips to increasing sales velocity. We thank you so much for joining us this morning. We know your time is valuable, so again, thank you so much for jumping on the line with us. I'm going to give everybody a few minutes before we start making introductions and get started, just let some people trickle in. We'll chat with you guys in about 2-3 minutes. Thanks so much. All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's webinar. Again, it's PandaDoc and ProsperWorks. My name is Bethany Fagan. I am Partner Marketing Manager here at PandaDoc. So today we're going to be talking about 6 tips to increasing your sales velocity. Again, we thank you guys so much for tuning in and giving us a minute of your time this morning. So our speakers on today's webinar are Rick Treleaven. He is our account executive at PandaDoc. Rick, give us a couple short introduction about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for that intro, Bethany. Hi, everyone. My name is Rick. I am one of the AEs and partner managers at PandaDoc. I've been with the company for actually a little over 2 years at this point. For those of you who don't really know our company history, we started off as this other tool called Quote Roller, and then transitioned into PandaDoc in January of 2015. So I've been there since the onset. Before then, I was in my previous life, actually was in quite a different space. I was in currency trading and derivatives for a number of years. But before that, I had my origins in software sales. I worked for a company called Aperture Software, which later became part of Dell. We were a backup and disaster recovery software group based in the DC area. So very excited to be here, and obviously excited to be working with ProsperWorks and sharing the time today.
Cool, great. Thanks, Rick. Really appreciate it. Our next presenter we have is Kyle Warren. He is an AE here at ProsperWorks. Kyle, I'll give you an opportunity to tell us a little about yourself.
Awesome. Thanks, Bethany. So, hey, everyone. This is Kyle with ProsperWorks. As Bethany said, I'm an AE here at ProsperWorks as well. I've been with the company for a little over a year, which is about half the time that we've been out on the market. So it's been fun working with clients, demoing them as our product has really grown over the past year, and just seeing all the new ways that we can help out clients, working on new integrations like the one we just came out with, PandaDoc. And before that, I moved up to the Bay Area from San Diego, where I worked for a couple different startups in the endurance and education industry, working with technology all the time, working with a lot of different CRMs. It was fun to come work for a CRM company and learn about how you can really get the most out of it as a salesperson and as a business owner.
Cool. Thanks, Kyle. Couple housekeeping items before we dive right into today's content. This session is being recorded, so you guys will have access to this on the PandaDoc Bright Talk channel. Be sure to also subscribe to the PandaDoc Bright Talk channel. We consistently do webinars on sales enablement, sales productivity, sales velocity, so be sure to get your name in there and get on a couple of our future webinars. Also, if you have any questions for Rick or Kyle, feel free to put those in the chat pane. We would love to hear your feedback as they are going through the presentation. Any kind of successes you've seen, please feel free to share. We would love to hear from you. All right, so with that said, let's get rolling. Rick, I'm going to let you tell us a little bit more about PandaDoc, and then Kyle's going to dive right into ProsperWorks and his first tips.
Yeah, absolutely. So PandaDoc, plain and simple, is let's put this in the most simplest of terms. We're kind of like Microsoft Word meets Google Drive meets DocuSign. So our goal is to completely streamline your company's document automation process. Our bread and butter is, of course, streamlining your sales documentation. Sales teams have all sorts of different types of documents to send out, whether they're proposals or contracts or presentations. Our goal is to make that process that much easier. We work with companies like ProsperWorks to completely streamline that process. Companies have to use tools like CRMs to manage their pipelines and such. The idea is that, hey, once you've built up enough collateral in your CRM, you want to be able to push that collateral effectively into your client-facing documents. So what you'll be seeing later on is the idea that with our two integrations that any relative client information that you have in ProsperWorks, you'll be able to push that information into a client-facing document like your contract, like your proposal, like your presentation.
All right, perfect. Just some quick background on ProsperWorks. So we've been around for about 4 years. We've been on the market for a little less than 2 years. We launched in January of 2015. And really what we're all about with ProsperWorks is the fact that we are Google's recommended CRM. So if you use Google Apps or Google for Work for your business, we're fully integrated with Gmail, with Google Apps, and Google actually uses us internally for several of their sales teams as well because we have such a tightly integrated solution. We're actually also built on Google's material design. So from a look and feel standpoint, we provide a very simple, easy-to-use platform that's going to let you keep track of your contacts, keep track of communication that you're having with your contacts, and keep track of your sales and project management cycle as well, so we can make sure we're staying on top of every part of our business from a client-facing standpoint and know exactly what's going on in our business from a revenue generation standpoint or from a project management workflow standpoint if you're utilizing ProsperWorks like that as well. And we actually just had some very exciting news last week at ProsperWorks when we announced that we closed a round of Series B funding for $24 million. So we're pretty excited. We're going to be investing heavily into our product over the next year, coming out with a lot of great new features, a lot of really cool integrations, just like the one we just launched with PandaDoc. So we're pretty excited about the future of where our product and our company is going, and excited to show you where we are today as well. So the first tip that I wanted to talk about today was performing effective discovery. This is probably one of the most important but underrated parts of a sales cycle, and it's really the very beginning of a sales cycle. When you get a prospect that's interested, you have a meeting scheduled with them, it's extremely important that you're going to do the research both ahead of time and at the very beginning of the call with the prospect to understand their business, understand their process, understand why they're on the phone with you and interested in your product, and make sure that you know how you're going to be able to provide an effective solution for them, or if you're even going to be able to provide an effective solution for them. So many reps spend a lot of time working on deals and get very far in the sales cycle on a deal for something that really probably wasn't the best opportunity and wasn't the best fit for the product that you're providing. But if you recognize that right from the beginning and recognize this probably isn't going to be a good opportunity, you can spend your time focusing on deals that are actually going to close and deals that are going to be a good fit and help you meet your goals. But ultimately, if you're getting 3/4 of the way through the sales cycle, you have a very low close rate. It's probably because you're not doing that discovery up front to be able to establish that solution fit and provide a solid solution for your clients. So Prosperworks really helps me out a lot with that, both before the call, doing the research. So inside of Prosperworks, we actually have what's called zero input capabilities. So if I got this email from Daniel here, one second, sorry about that. Perfect. Sorry about that, guys. So when I get this email from Daniel here, looks like he's interested in doing a demo of Prosperworks. Right away, Prosperworks is going to tell me who he is. Looks like I haven't met with him before, but right away I see that I see his company website, his LinkedIn profile, his job title. So I really need to understand what his company does to know if I'm going to be able to provide that solution fit for them. So I'll pull up his website, which Prosperworks was able to find for me. I'll go ahead and pull up his LinkedIn profile. Looks like he's the Director of Business Development. That's something that's really important for me as well, to know exactly who I'm meeting with, making sure that I'm meeting with the right people. Ultimately, you can have a meeting with the best company in the world, but if you're talking to somebody that isn't really part of the decision-making process, it's probably not going to be worth your time unless you know that's kind of the first step to get that introduction to the decision makers. So it looks like I'll be meeting with Daniel, who's the Director of Business Development, and Jake, who's the VP of Sales. I can pull up Jake's LinkedIn profile, see if we have any mutual connections, see if he's worked in any industries before that I'm really familiar with. So I'll do that research ahead of time. I also just want to take a look inside Prosperworks to see if I've met with their company before. So it looks like I have a couple different contacts at this company. I've talked to their CEO, I've talked to their president before. So I'll take a look at what I've chatted with them about here inside of their company profile inside of Prosperworks. Looks like their CEO, we talked to about 6 months ago. Their president told me that I need to talk to members of his sales team. So I definitely know I'm meeting with the right people, and it's in front of the final DM's eyes as well. And then once I'm on that call and really doing that discovery, I'm probably going to dedicate the first third of my call just doing effective discovery with my clients and dedicating a pretty significant amount of time, because I know that I need to establish that solution fit later on in the call, and I'm only going to do that if I'm asking the right questions from the beginning. So what I'm always trying to do is what's called establish the pain. I need to know why they're on the phone with me, why they're interested in looking at a new CRM solution. And the way that I'm going to do that is finding out what their current process looks like, finding out what troubles they're running to in their business that a CRM can help, and really try to quantify what the impact on the business is by not having the correct solution in place right now, so that I can quantify at the end of the call what having Prosperworks is really going to help them be able to do. So that's how I'm always working my sales cycle, is understanding from the very beginning what I need to do to help out my clients, as well as always just keeping track of my notes, keeping track of what exactly they're looking for here inside of Prosperworks, so that I can always reference that at the end of my sales cycle as well.
Now, Kyle, you mentioned earlier that, for this particular opportunity, you reached out to the Director of Business Development. Are there a couple of key roles that you look for in an organization, or do you all really narrow in maybe in one or two that are your target sweet spots? Maybe it's a VP of Sales or Director of Sales?
Yeah, absolutely. Good question. I think for me, for my sales cycle, working with CRM, working with a product where I'm selling into a sales department, I'm always going to want that VP of Sales on the line to buy in, because ultimately, even if I talk to a CEO, but the sales department, the ones that are going to actually be using the product, really aren't bought in on it, then it's not going to be implemented successfully. So I always need to get the end users bought in while also having the decision makers as part of the conversation as well. So that VP of Sales is really the perfect person for me to talk to, because they're running the sales team, they're going to be part of the decision-making process, but they're really in tune with the needs of their individual members on their team as well.
Have you had much luck in reaching that director level or C-level or VP level by reaching out to someone who's just at the associate level?
Yeah, absolutely. All the time I'll talk to reps, maybe at networking events. I'll talk to AEs or SDRs at networking events, mutual connections, doing research on LinkedIn, anything like that, and just getting those introductions to those VP of Sales. If they hear from their actual reps, people working under them, that they're interested in an easier to use, simple CRM platform, they've been hearing great things about Prosperworks, then it's really easy to get that initial meeting and call with the actual decision maker that I need to be meeting with as well.
Awesome. Yeah, we certainly run into that at Pandadoc as well, where our bread and butter is actually working not just with maybe a VP of sales or a sales director, but actually a director of marketing as well. So it's always good to cast a net, but obviously be mindful of who really is going to be utilizing the product and going to be making a key decision on this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think that brings up a good point too. I mean, there's definitely been times where I've gone through the sales process, maybe working with someone who I thought was the decision maker, but I didn't ask the right questions ahead of time to really figure out if they were. So I think that's a big part of the discovery process too, is figuring out who your decision makers are. You can get at the end of the sales cycle with somebody, they say it's great, I love it, oh wait, they finally bring it up to the person who's the real decision maker, and you've wasted a bunch of time for something that probably wasn't a real opportunity because the real decision maker isn't even interested in taking a look. So I think being mindful in that discovery of making sure you're talking to the right person and just directly asking them, are you the person who can make a decision, is very important as well.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than you forecasted a deal for the end of the month or the end of the quarter, your number depends on it, and you feel like you're ready for a closing call, but it turns out you've been talking to the wrong person all along.
Absolutely. Perfect. Well, the second tip that I wanted to talk about was really prioritizing your goals and actions. I think as a salesperson or as a business owner, it's very easy to take a look at these large, lofty goals that maybe you have for the quarter, you have for the year, and kind of get caught up in meeting these really large goals and really losing sight on what you're doing day by day to meet little smaller goals that are going to get you towards your larger goal. A lot of salespeople can get distracted. If you're at 10% of your number, 10% of the way through the year, you think that you have so much time to hit your goals, and you kind of just focus on maybe closing large deals, take a day off, whatever it may be. But if you set small goals for yourself throughout the day, to really make sure, throughout the day, throughout the week, to really make sure that you're staying on top of what you need to do to meet your larger goals and really quantify it for yourself, that's how you're going to really be successful day in and day out and consistently hit your monthly, your quarterly goals that are going to get you to crushing your annual goals as well. And inside of Prosperworks, I really utilize our goals feature to be able to just really break down what I need to do week in and week out, and even day in and day out, to ultimately meet my goals as well.
Yeah, you talk about having these daily goals. I mean, how many times have you gotten caught up maybe on one single deal where your stubbornness kicks in, you're like, I want to close this, and it ends up taking you away from, some of the other goals that you need to reach? Yeah,
absolutely. I think all the time, right? It's easy to get caught up in that. You see this one huge deal that might be 70% of your number, and it's easy to feel like that you need to spend all of your time on that. But ultimately, if you're effective in spending your time on the big deals, definitely getting those closed, but also, not letting other things slip through the cracks, consistently hitting those small deals that every single month are going to get you to 70 or 80% of your number. Then when those big deals come in as well, that's how you're going to get to 150, 200% of your number and really crush the goals that you've set for yourself or set for your business.
Yeah, I think that's a big goal. That's a big thing that a lot of young sales professionals run into, is where, hey, they see that one golden ticket deal and they really focus all their energy on that, and they completely ignore, all the other deals that they could still meet their number by working those or nurturing those deals.
Absolutely. So what I actually do is I'll just set weekly goals for myself inside of Prosperworks. So I'll hop in and say that I know that I need to do $2,500 of sales a week. I'm just going to set a $2,500 sales goal for myself. Now I know with my close rate and my average deal size, that means that every single week I probably need about 10 new deals inside of my pipeline. So I need to convert 10 leads that I've been trying to prospect into an actual deal. I'm going to set that goal for myself. And I can see right away where I'm trending towards the week. 24% on Tuesday, 40% on Tuesdays is pretty good. And I know to get those 10 conversions, I probably need to be making about 20 calls a day, about 100 calls on the week. I'm just going to set that goal for myself as well. And then really be able to know exactly from a weekly basis where I'm trending and how I'm going to be able to hit my goals. So I know right now I'm at 9% of my activity goal. So right away, I know coming into the office this morning, I need to make more phone calls today. No matter what else I do, I'm going to be behind. I'm not going to hit my conversion goals. I'm not going to hit my revenue goals if I'm not making my phone calls. And that's a win that I can give myself every single week. I can control how many calls I make. I control how much effort I'm putting in, even if I'm not getting the results one week. I know if I make 100 calls this week, that's going to get me the opportunities that I need to hit my goals next week. So I really just try to quantify it like that and know every single day that I'm accomplishing something and I'm meeting some goal to make myself successful to hit my larger quarterly, annual goals, whatever it may be. Perfect. And then the third and last tip that I wanted to cover is establishing that close plan and having clear next steps with your prospects when you're on the call with them. It's happened to all of us where you have a great call, someone's very interested, you think that you've established a great solution fit, and then the deal just kind of falls off after that. They stop responding, they say that they get busy. It happens all the time. Ultimately, checking out your solution oftentimes isn't their number one priority for their business, and they're going to get caught up in their regular day-to-day activities. So what I will always do is establish a close plan right there on the call of steps that myself and my prospect need to get done to make sure that we're winning this deal. And I'll actually just write it up on a Google Sheet as well. So I'll actually just pull up a Google Sheet of that close plan while I'm on the call and sharing my screen with a contact and really get buy-in from them on what we both need to do to make sure this deal gets closed. And that's asking the right questions at the end of the call as well. What does your evaluation look like? Who else do you need to evaluate this product? Are there specific features that you need to make sure that you understand? Who are the final decision makers? Who actually writes the check? Who do I need to make sure is writing the check? Are they going to be on vacation next week? You need to know exactly all the different scenarios that are going to happen or that might happen for you to ultimately close this deal. So the example we've been talking about, that call with Parallel 6, I went ahead and just wrote up 5 different steps. And there's a couple steps that I need to get done, so I'm holding myself accountable to my prospects, and then a couple steps that my prospects need to get done to make sure they're holding themselves accountable to establishing our close plan and ultimately presenting to our executive team on October 22nd is going to be my final goal. And there's things that we all need to get done to ultimately meet those goals as well. And I think just asking somebody, on the call, hey, is this realistic for you? Is this going to work out? Is the best thing to do, because ultimately on October 12th, if Daniel hasn't completed this first step, I can reach out to him and say, hey, I thought we agreed that this was going to be the right close plan. Should we adjust it? And really just have that visibility so we're holding each other accountable to make sure that we're working towards getting this closed. And that's going to really help this person kind of become your champion for the deal as well. If they feel like they're working with you, they know what they need to get done, I know what I need to get done, and we're really a team and ultimately getting this deal done and getting buy-in from other people inside the company, it's really going to help get the deal done, establish that relationship with the client, and know that if they do decide to work with you, you're going to be very on top of things. You're going to be helping them out, providing good support because you were with them the entire time through the sales and evaluation process as well.
Yeah, do you typically remind your champion and your decision makers of the timeline throughout the sales process?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I'll do is I'll actually just set a task for myself inside of Prosperworks for all of these different goals that we've set throughout the entire close process. And then I'll go ahead and set a reminder for myself a day before. So on October 11th, if I still haven't heard from Daniel, I'm actually just going to shoot him an email or give him a call and say, hey, just a reminder, we have this close plan in place. Are you still going to be able to get that done tomorrow? Do we need to change it? What's going on? So I always have a reason to reach out to them, to stay in regular communication with them as well, because we have set steps and things that I'm expecting from them. And also I have goals for myself to get done as well. So as soon as I find this reference for them, I'm going to reach out. It's a perfect excuse for me to touch base and make sure that they're staying on top of the things that they need to get done as well.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of young sales professionals really get caught up in the time frame, and they can easily get distracted. Okay, I have a set phone call with them in 2 weeks. Well, and they end up not doing anything over that 2-week period, and the prospect ends up finding something else that they really need to be working on, and their current project that you're working on with them just completely falls by the wayside.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah, and I think it's easy to kind of forget too that ultimately, you're all day long. I'm selling Prosperworks. That's my main focus. Selling Prosperworks. For my prospect, they have their own job. A lot of times, evaluating Prosperworks is a side project that they're working on. It's not the number one priority for their business to evaluate your process, so they're going to forget. But if you have set just little things that they can do, if they know, hey, in 3 days, I just need to do this one little thing, and you make it a lot smaller and easier for them, that's really going to help. If I just say, hey, okay, in 2 weeks, you're going to know everything about Prosperworks, you're going to have your whole team trained, chances are it's probably not going to happen. So I try to just make it as easy as possible for my clients to evaluate the solution.
Yeah, that's really good, keeping things realistic, and especially on a realistic time frame as well.
Absolutely. So, next thing that I wanted to highlight is while I'm inside of this sales process, as soon as I get to the point where I need to bring assets over to this client, whether it be a proposal to share with their executive team, internal collateral to share with their team as they're evaluating Prosperworks, that's where I'm going to utilize that PandaDoc and Prosperworks integration inside of my close plan. So right here, if I'm inside of my Prosperworks account, I have Parallel 6's opportunity up, and right on the right side here, I have my PandaDoc extension as well. And this is going to help me just create new assets or edit current assets, such as proposals, to shoot right away over to my prospects. So what we'll actually do is we'll pull all the data that we have inside of Prosperworks. So I have all this data here, the amount of users, their address, my main point of contact, company information. And right away, I'm just going to pull it into a document or a template that I've already built out inside of my PandaDoc account. So I'm pulling all this client information automatically. I'm pulling Prosperworks' pricing information automatically into PandaDoc, and allowing the two to really work seamlessly together to get these proposals out without having to spend a bunch of time doing manual data entry. So I can be more efficient with my sales cycle, make sure that I'm staying on top of my close plans, meeting my daily goals, so I'm not having to spend a bunch of time putting together sales materials as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are some of the things that you've put into your Prosperworks proposal?
So, I always like to include case studies if I have specific case studies for their industry. I always like to include pricing information if we're doing any discounting. I like to be very upfront and clear about the pricing inside of my proposals. I think if you make it as simple and easy to use as possible for your different team members, for your different prospects, it's always easy for them to get buy-in, for them to understand. If you send over a complicated, maybe not that clear kind of pricing proposal, it's ultimately kind of going to come back to bite you in the end, because at the very end of the sales cycle, but they might not understand it, might not understand they have to pay annually, different things like that. So I think being very clear and having good resources to send to them from the very beginning is helpful.
Gotcha. Now, what are some of the other documents that you might send out throughout your sales process in addition to the proposal?
So, I'm definitely always going to be sending over very quick, easy collateral that they can share with other people inside their company. If they're the only person that's actually inside evaluating Prosperworks, I need to make sure that I send very high-level, good-looking marketing materials to them as well to make sure that other people from the company can get buy-in very easily and understand what Prosperworks is about. I like to send over helpful videos. I like to send over our pricing page so they can take a look at our pricing. So really anything that I feel like is going to help them very quickly and easily understand my product and kind of understand what we're all about at Prosperworks, if they don't have the time to really dive deep into it, is always extremely helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you guys are utilizing our video capabilities as well. All right. So is that tip 3 at this point, or?
Yeah, I think those are all the tips I wanted to cover.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad. Thanks for sharing everything, Kyle. Yeah, I'm glad we ended with that. Going into some of the things that Prosperworks are putting into their proposals. One of the things I wanted to talk about in tip 4, pieces of content that you would put in your proposal. There are a lot of different directions that companies go in when it comes to putting their proposal together. And what I really want to focus on is, hey, why are you putting certain content in? At PandaDoc, a lot of times, we give you a lot of flexibility in terms of, what you can actually put into your proposal. A lot of times, over the last 2 years that we've been at market with PandaDoc, the one thing we've really noticed is a lot of times people like to put in that initial cover letter, making that introduction to the product, some of the challenges, some of the goals that their prospect is facing, making sure that everything is being addressed. But one thing that we've noticed, a lot of people have been putting that simply in writing. Well, we want to change how that cover letter gets presented. And so one thing we've really been trying to encourage our prospects to do and our users to do is actually to put that into video format. Why put something into a letter that we're finding that 90% of the time people actually aren't reading. But if you put it into video format, usually 99% of the time people are actually taking the time to watch that video. So if you put something, a quick 20 to 30 second personalized video together, you can actually film just with your own Android device or your own iPhone, or a lot of computers have recording capabilities. You can actually go ahead and just upload that personalized video directly into your PandaDoc.
So it could be something as simple as, hey, Kyle, welcome to PandaDoc. We've really enjoyed working with you all over the last, couple of weeks and during your proof of concept. We've realized that, you have had challenges A, B, C, and D. We're hoping that PandaDoc is going to be able to address, those challenges via, segments D, E, and F. So putting that in personalized video format really helps take the proposal to a different level. Some of the other content that you really should include in your proposal, and we've noticed a lot of people surprisingly don't do this, and it's something really simple, and that's even putting your own client's logo in the proposal. Little touches like that just go such a long way. And finally, one of the big reasons why we built out our platform is we want to make signing proposals that much easier. That's why we have our own built-in electronic signature tool. We kind of laugh at the idea now of ever having to print out a proposal and having to sign it by hand and then having to find a scanner or a fax machine. Nothing is worse. I remember my very first job out of school. It was 4 o'clock on December 31st, and waiting on that one last deal to come in and having to rely on a fax machine to get that deal confirmation, and nothing was worse. Eventually the deal did come in, but nothing was worse than having to wait for that and having to rely on the fax machine. Versus, we're finding that when you do send something via electronic signature, your closing time does decrease dramatically, and your closing rates actually go up. We're finding that closing rate ends up going up by about 30% at this point.
Yeah, I think utilizing those e-signatures is something that we just started doing here at ProsperWorks. And it's just been amazing to see the results. Whenever you can make anything easier for your prospects, it's going to help you get the deal closed, right? And, kind of like Rick said, whenever somebody has to find a fax machine, or if that's not working, whenever you have to rely on some other sort of technology, you have to rely on something else to help your prospects do something, the chances are that they're going to forget about it, they're not going to do it, they're going to get caught up doing something else, and it's going to make your sales cycle a lot longer. So we've really found here at ProsperWorks that utilizing that e-signature is extremely helpful for us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It is greatly reduced use of Advil on at the end of quarters and at the end of the month. So yeah, we've been talking about throughout this, and Kyle mentioned on this earlier, having those timely follow-ups. So where does PandaDoc really come into play? One of the best features that we've actually built out in PandaDoc are our document analytics and tracking. I can't tell you how many times I've sent out documents and I've had no clue, or I've sent out emails and I've had no clue whether or not the other person on the other end has actually taken the time to look at my document. I might get some notification saying that they've opened it, but have they actually taken the time to read through that document? So we've ended up building out some great analytics features in PandaDoc. It actually tells us a page-by-page view how much time the recipient has actually spent looking at the document. We'll also know when each recipient has opened the document, view times. We actually have a feature that allows you to download that document to PDF as well. Having that feedback goes a really long way. I've started sending out even initial case studies via PandaDoc. So I've started prospecting through PandaDoc and sending my documents through PandaDoc. So I'll know, hey, if I send something to Jim at Company X, Jim has taken a look at my case study. I can see which parts of the case study Jim has taken a look at. So if I have a follow-up call with Jim, I know which points to touch on. If I send a proposal to Jim later on in the sales cycle, and I see that Jim has spent 15 minutes looking at my pricing, but then 2 or 3 minutes maybe on my terms and conditions, when I maybe go have that closing call with Jim, Jim's probably going to have a few more questions about pricing than he is going to have about terms. So having that insight information going into a follow-up call or a closing call, it really makes a huge difference. Yeah, what are some of the things that you've found here, ProsperWorks in your sales career, Kyle, that you might have run into a roadblock where you might have sent something to someone and, you may have run into that same challenge where you have no clue, you feel like you've built up really good rapport with someone, and then it turns out that, they didn't even take the time to even look at the document that you were sending.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. I think for me, kind of like Rick brought up, bringing that up inside of knowing that information we're going to into our follow-up calls and going into our closing calls is so much helpful. I think one obvious thing for me is, when I'm sending over pricing, if I'm going into a closing call, I had a closing call for the last day of the quarter on Friday, and I saw that my prospect had opened it up, or his colleagues had opened it up 60 times. So I knew right away, one, this deal was probably going to close. They were probably going to try to negotiate with me a little bit on the pricing if they'd opened it up and analyzed it 60 different times across probably 4 or 5 different people. So right away, I was really prepared to handle that. I knew what pricing we were going to be able to offer on the last day of the month. I was really prepared to handle that call. If they hadn't opened it once, one, I would have known that there's a good chance they're probably not going to show up for this call. And two, I'm probably going to need to get ready to review the pricing with them, and maybe not going to be able to get a decision right on that call. Or I'm going to have to push a little bit harder for a decision because it's not something that they've clearly been contemplating. So I think when you don't have that visibility, or any more information that you know about your prospect going into a call can only help, right? I think a lot of times too, as you assume that somebody gets your email, but it might go into their spam folder. They might just be terrible about checking their email. So if they never open up 4 different emails that you send to them, right away I'm going to call them. Instead of just waiting for them to respond to my email, I'm going to start hounding them on the phone, and I'll tell them, hey, I saw you hadn't opened up my email yet. It looks like you hadn't really taken a look at these assets. Is there something else that I can send over to you that you would be more beneficial? Have you just not had a chance to look at it? And just kind of let them know, like, hey, I'm here to help you, and it looks like what I've sent over so far isn't helping if they haven't been engaged with it. So what can I do? What else can I do to help you out kind of in your evaluation process?
Yeah, to your point, we're actually finding that when we send PandaDocs out, that if someone hasn't opened it up in the first 24 hours, it's a great opportunity for that, like you said, for that follow-up. Hey, there might be a chance that it ended up in someone's spam folder. And it's a just good opportunity and a good excuse to follow up with your customer in general. And it works both ways, because you could very well have an instance where you have a prospect that opens up your document, they take the time to look at it, they're very thorough, but it also goes the other way where, you might send something to someone, they open it for 2 seconds, and then they look at the first 2 pages, and then they close it, and you never hear from them again. Well, that tells you a lot. That tells you that you missed a ton of steps along the way, that, hey, they actually were not ready for a proposal. You actually didn't end up addressing any of their goals or any of their challenges from the start. So it really does go both ways. And that actually segments perfectly into the last tip that I want to talk on, and that's improving the proposal process, with your content. This is an area where you can really start working with your marketing team. Is the content that you're sending out, is it actually viable? Are people actually taking the time to read through your case studies? Are your case studies actually capturing some of the metrics that your platform can achieve? Are they correctly articulating some of the goals and some of the challenges that some of your customers are facing? Do you have enough dialed-in case studies that cover maybe a wide variety of sectors and industries and verticals? So it's always a great way it's always good to go back and take a look at, hey, is the content that we're sending out, is it eye-catching? Are people actually taking the time to read it? If you're noticing over and over again that when you send out proposals that people are continuously skipping parts of your proposal, hey, is it even worth keeping that content in there? Maybe you continuously, you're overloading your proposal with too many case studies, or you have too much multimedia, and you're noticing at the end of the day that your projects really don't care about that. They just care about maybe reading or viewing that introductory cover letter or video presentation, and they just want to skip to pricing and terms. So there are many times that, hey, you could end up getting caught up with being guilty of sending too much, or the information that you are sending out just isn't eye-captivating.
So what are you finding are the most successful sorts of assets that you're sending over PandaDoc?
people love multimedia. People love videos. People love HTML graphics and slideshows. People love the fact that, hey, wow, I can actually put things like this into my client-facing documents. So we're finding that's a huge asset.
Yeah, absolutely. We're finding the same thing internally. Any sort of quick videos, the more personalized, the better. But yeah, multimedia is something we've been very successful with as well here at Prosperworks.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I'm glad you brought up something that's personalized, because you can end up having too much generic content in there. If it's not personalized enough, people are going to feel like, oh, I'm just another prospect. I'm just another user. But if you try and put as much of a personalized touch on that content, that people will respond to it so much better. I think that's going back to that initial introductory video. Having something like that speaks volumes versus maybe just a generic cover letter.
Absolutely.
Well, that's tip 6. I think the next thing we really wanted to dive in was a potential case study that, that our two companies have bared the fruits of our labor and have really helped. And I know that the guys over at Impact Commerce were pumping our tires on social media the other day. So, Kyle, what do you know about Impact Commerce?
Yeah, I think Gabrielle Hughes is here with us too today. She is the marketing manager here at Prosperworks. So we'll let her dive into that a little bit. She spent some time with Impact Commerce and would be happy to tell us a little bit more about it. So
yeah, thanks, Bethany. Hey guys, it's Gabrielle. I recently spoke with James Scott, who founded Impact Commerce, and I reached out to him after I saw that he tweeted about us at Prosperworks and Panadoc and how we kind of helped him and his company hit the ground running. He was in the market for a new CRM because he just couldn't keep everything in his Google Sheets or Excel spreadsheets, and so he found us, and he really liked it. He was really impressed by how the implementation took only 20 minutes instead of 20 days, which is what he was used to with working with other CRMs in the past. And it was the same pleasant, quick experience that drew James to Panadoc, where he could generate an initial document and get it signed within minutes. And I thought it was really interesting how James, he kind of considered himself to be a technology nerd that gets distracted by really cool, powerful technology, but he's sticking with Panadoc and Prosperworks in the long run because there's a nice balance between the platforms, and he can easily extract value from them without having to go deep into learning what they're about. And we have the full case study over on our blog, so it's prosperworks.com/blog, so definitely check that out.
We'll make sure that you guys have that resource after the webinar too, so you can read that a little more in detail post-webinar. So thanks a lot, Gabrielle. We appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks, Gabrielle.
So I think that concludes everything today. I did see couple quick questions trickle in. So one question that came in for you, Rick, was you had mentioned Panadoc has really powerful document analytics that will notify you when your document is opened and viewed. Can you be a little more specific about how you follow up? Is it 2 minutes after they open it? Is it maybe a day after they open it? When do you typically like to follow up with your prospects?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's actually a question I don't get too often, but I think I would typically follow up within the next within a 24-hour period. I don't think there's any harm to, once you've seen that someone has opened up a document, you've seen that they've taken the time to read through the document. I don't think there's any harm in reaching back out to them. We have actually built-in commenting within Panadoc that actually allows you to send a comment through Panadoc. And what I've done in the past is actually send a quick message. Hey, looks like you've had the opportunity to read through the proposal. Let me know about any immediate feedback and questions. If not, let's circle back around at our scheduled time, and hopefully you've had the opportunity to, put a scheduled follow-up, following, before you sent out that document.
Great, thanks. And I think, Gabrielle, you had one come in for Kyle.
Yeah, so Kyle was talking a lot about the goals feature of Prosperworks. Can these goals be activity-driven instead of revenue-driven?
Yeah, absolutely. So inside of Prosperworks, you can set goals for 4 different things for your business. So first one's going to be on your activity. So how many phone calls are you making? How many demos are you doing? How many customer meetings are you having? Any sort of activity that you're tracking inside of the system. You can set goals for yourself on a weekly, monthly, quarterly, or annual basis to make sure that you're achieving those goals. And then you can also set lead conversion goals. So we have leads inside ProsperWorks, people that you're trying to prospect and ultimately get inside of your actual sales pipeline. So you can set goals for yourself on how many of those leads you're converting, and then you can set sales revenue goals as well to make sure that ultimately at the end of the day we're closing as much business as we need to be successful as well.
How often are you checking that?
I think for me personally, almost every single day, if not every single day, am I in there inside of my goals. Kind of going back to tip number 2 that we talked about, that helps really keep me focused. I can get caught up in looking at my monthly number. It's the 4th day of the month. I'm at 7% of my monthly number. It's easy to get caught up and say, I have a bunch of time, there's a bunch of work to do, let me go find some big deals. But keeping myself focused on my weekly goals every single day, because I have that formula. I know that if I hit my activity goals, my conversion goals, my weekly revenue goals, I'm going to hit my number. If I just keep myself focused on those smaller goals, it's going to get me to the larger ones as well. So I try to check it every single day.
Now, could a sales manager have goals for their entire sales team set up in those parameters within ProsperWorks?
Yes, yeah. So you can set up goals for your team. You can take a look at how your team's doing. You can compare an individual team member to the team average. Individual team members can compare themselves to the top performer as well. So if I want to kind of try to get my team members motivated, I can show how they're trending towards the top performer on the team as well. It's a lot of access and visibility that we have inside the system.
Cool. And then it looks like we did have one pop in while you guys were wrapping up those 2 questions. Will ProsperWorks be integrating the Google Voice tracking feature anytime soon? Do you guys know anything about that?
Perfect. Yeah, that's a good question. So we're actually releasing a VoIP integration within the next 2 weeks with a system called RingCentral. So RingCentral is another Google recommended application, just like ProsperWorks is. So we'll have a full integration with them where you can click to call right from ProsperWorks. You can answer calls from ProsperWorks. Your RingCentral calls will automatically be logged. Now, inside of ProsperWorks at the moment, we also do integrate with Google Voice and Google Hangout. So I can start a Hangout or a voice call right from inside ProsperWorks. I can click to dial the Google Voice from inside of ProsperWorks as well. But that full, complete VoIP integration will be with RingCentral for the time being.
Great. Thanks, Kyle. So we're approaching the hour here. Again, we thank everyone so much for your time today. Again, thanks, Rick. Thanks, Kyle, for your great insight into increasing sales velocity. You guys are in the trenches every day, so it was really great to hear some great tips that you guys can provide to our audience. So a couple of resources for you guys. Be sure to follow PandaDoc and ProsperWorks on Twitter and on LinkedIn. We're constantly sharing content in regards to just making your sales process and even helping sales leadership to motivate their sales teams with tips and tricks to close more deals faster, because that's what our mottos to both organizations are. If you're interested in a demonstration with ProsperWorks or PandaDoc, this is our sales aliases, so feel free to shoot us an email at sales@pandadoc.com or sales@prosperworks.com. You can also go on each other's websites too. I know that PandaDoc has a 14-day free trial that you can check out PandaDoc. So does ProsperWorks. You can also sign up for demonstrations on the website too. So again, thank you guys. We'll make sure to share that blog post as well. And then, it looks like we had actually one last question trickle in. We'll be sure to answer that offline since we need to wrap up today's call. But again, thank you guys so much. Look forward to hopefully having you guys on a future webinar. And thanks again, guys. Have a great day.